Hey there, welcome to the pod. Today we're going to continue our series on MVP candidates. This week talking about the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, averaging over 31 points, 11 and a half rebounds, 6.5 assists, steal and a half a game, over a block a game, continuing his usual dominance across the league. But the Bucks came to Portland last week. Games return, and they lost to Anthony Simons and the Trailblazers. Simons outdueled Dame Time. Boy, those announcers could not get over Dame Time. They were hoping for it, they were praying for it, they were waiting for it, could not stop talking about it, and it didn't happen. But Colton, you didn't hear the announcers because you were there at the game. Tell us a little bit about what it was like being at Moda for that game.
Yeah, that was a fantastic game. It's one of my favorite. I don't go to that many games per year, anymore, ever since Ellie, my daughter, was born. But I pick a select few that sound fun and try to get there. And that was one of my favorite regular season games I've ever seen. The atmosphere was great for Dame, but obviously, we're talking about Giannis here, and Giannis was as advertised. I think that the crowd jumped on him real quick with the free throw countdown timer.
Yeah.
But the problem is the crowd, much to the chagrin of myself, was counting like normal seconds. They weren't trying to speed Giannis up. They were like one,
They
two,
were Mississippiing it.
three. Yeah, and they were like letting the refs don't even have to count because the crowd's counting and Giannis can just relax. I was saying like one, two, three, four, trying to speed him up, right? Because that's one of Giannis's flaws is he takes a long time at the free throw line. He's been known to get a few 10-second violations. So the game was amazing. Giannis was unstoppable except for a couple Tumani Kamara drawn
Yeah.
charges. And, Damian Lillard is going to Damian Lillard if not for Brooke Lopez not seeing him open on the kick out. I think that Giannis as a whole, he's such a dominant force of I'm going to crash down into the rim and it's going to give me 30 points a night. He kind of goes not unnoticed, but people kind of forget about just how good he is. No nobody. I guess it's more voter fatigue. Reasons why I'm not sure he'll get it this year because the guy is just a force and he's a good defender. He's a good rebounder. He's a good passer. He's got the size. He can defend the rim. Like
Is
Giannis is a freak.
is he a coach killer though?
I don't know about that. I think, Terry Stotts found out the hard way that maybe going under Mr. Griffin wasn't the way to go.
They should have
Um,
never gotten rid of Budenholzer. I thought that was a mistake when they did it, and it looks like a mistake now. Like, why get rid of the dude? Obviously, they had a rough playoffs last year, but there was reasons why Giannis got hurt. They ran into a Jimmy Butler team that was on a mission. There was reasons why it wasn't like it was a complete, choke job by the coach or anything like that. And he's proven himself to be a great coach that's capable of winning championships. So I thought it was a weird move to get rid of him. And then the Adrian Griffin thing seems very weird, and it makes me a little bit have a different view of Giannis. Like he's burning through coaches all of a sudden.
he didn't want the move to happen, from what he said out
Which
loud.
move?
Them firing Griffin, but who knows if
There's
that's true or not?
no way. There's no way they're firing their head coach in the middle of a winning season without their star players
That's a
consistent.
brand move right there. He's trying to protect his
Impossible.
brand.
Impossible. Everyone who knows anything about what's going on inside that organization has pretty much said that it was Giannis and Dame as a unified team going to management and saying that the coach Griffin had lost the locker room. It's the only thing that makes any sense. It's what the insiders are saying. And I mean, I think the coaching issue is the reason that Giannis won't win the MVP this year,
Maybe.
because he does look just as dominant as always. Obviously, he has incredible players that he has to overcome as well. We're talking about him in this series too. But yeah, I mean, the fact is he's having a weird head coaching shift in the middle of the year. They're not winning now. They made the horrible, horrible mistake of bringing in Glenn Rivers. That's not the kind of mistake that you recover from in half of a season. And so they're not going to end up being, you know me, best player on the best team. There's no way they're going to end up being the best team. I think they're going to slip. I think there's a good chance they slip in the Eastern Conference down 4, 5, maybe, and pretty easily. And I don't think the MVP comes from a team that slips from second to fifth after a head coaching change because the internal structure is such a mess. I don't think he's going to get it.
Obviously, Giannis is great. As I opened up this segment saying he's continuing his dominance, extremely dominant player. The reason that I actually think he's not near the top of that MVP conversation is Dame Dalla. I think he is actually part of the reason where he's not getting it. It's not because the stats are down or anything. It's because they traded Drew Holiday, an elite defensive player, for Damian Lillard, a guy that, as Portland Trailblazers fans, we know the guy is a little bit of a defensive liability. At the very least, it's not his strength. And that has been Milwaukee's Achilles heel this season, has been their defense. That's supposedly why they got rid of Adrian Griffin. It's been a contentious issue for the team all year, their defense. And I think the reason isn't Giannis. The reason is because they traded Holiday out for Dame, and you're seeing the results of that on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, totally. Totally could be the flaw this year with them. And we'll see how far they go in the playoffs, of course, and how the narrative is going to shape around that. But the defense has been awful. Malik Beasley, for as good of a shooter as he's been this year, and the Dame backcourt, that does not strike fear into anybody's, hearts as far as defenders go. I think they're going to have to make another move. I've heard there's been some rumblings that they might look to trade Bucks fan favorite Bobby Portis.
Ooh.
Maybe try and pick up Grant Williams from Dallas. But from all accounts, from Dallas's end, Dallas says that Grant Williams isn't playing that well this year. So it's not an easy solution for Milwaukee because perimeter defenders don't grow on trees, as the Blazers have seen for who knows how long. Can they outscore everybody? Probably. But I think that Giannis's MVP candidacy, you're right. It won't. It's because of Dame probably, but also just it won't happen this year with narrative and with just kind of the overall vibe around the Bucks. But he's just as good as ever.
It's just unstable. They're an unstable team right now. I don't think they're going to win enough to be in the conversation to be a top tier team this year. Partly because of the defense, which is partly Dame's problem. It's partly the management's problem for not getting more defense to make up for the fact. I mean, Dame is as advertised. It's not like he misled them into thinking he was going to be an elite defender. He is what he is, and he came in and he's done that for the team. But they didn't shore up the defense when they decided to bring in Damian Lillard. His backcourt mate should be an elite defender. It's the only way that they're going to be an elite team. And then, you just can't get around the Doc Rivers conundrum. It's not going to be a fun post All-Star break for Milwaukee, I don't think. And MVP is not coming from that team.
I still think they're a threat to win it all this year, just because of who they have on their team, the nuclear weapons they have on their team. But the very wise and seasoned NBA fan, my dad, said the Bucks aren't going anywhere. And he compared Giannis to Russell Westbrook, saying he just does too much, puts his head down, and I don't know. He's right more than he's wrong, my dad. He has some hot takes every once in a while, but it tends to usually be right. Usually I'm like rolling my eyes like you are right now, Colton. And then a few months later, I'm like, there was something to what he was saying. We'll see though.
I have to say something about that.
Go for it.
I can't see the comparison. I've seen Giannis drop 50 points in the finals and lead his team to a championship. Something that Russell Westbrook could never sniff as the best player on a team. So I don't think that's
I do see some of the comparisons of like athletic freak who the shooting is a weakness. And
that's where it stops.
If you can scheme around that and force him to the foul line instead, and he's not making his free throws, becomes a real issue. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it down the stretch with those defensive liabilities first and foremost.
mentally and emotionally fragile. That's another comparison I'm going to make between those two players. You can get under their skin, whether it's the officiating, whether it's the other team, whether it's someone not giving up the game ball fast enough to cause just a complete kindergarten meltdown.
Yeah, that was a
Those
bad
are
look.
That's a Westbrook Giannis special right there. And those are the kinds of things that, yeah, you can use that to their detriment. It's very possible. If you're a good scheming team, you can get under their skin, you can get their head down, you can get them angry at their coach.
I think the biggest
Melts
difference
down.
is those 6 inches. And there's a lot more similarities than there are differences. But those 6 inches do matter in the NBA, as you've seen by the championship that he won. And he was dominant in those finals. But he was surrounded by guys that were making big time plays. And they don't have some of those guys now. Chris Middleton, not the same player he was. Drew Holiday out of town. And is Dame gonna be it'll be interesting to see Dame play at that level too, really in games that really matter, potentially finals games in the next couple of years. You guys think Giannis is still a threat to win MVP? Please let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.